Well, hello, and welcome to Mother Mendon Sings, Mendon's 350th anniversary celebratory concert. My name is Joyce Firth. I am the chairperson of the Cultural Council in Mendon and also an extremely proud member of the event committee that made this all happen tonight. We are being filmed and recorded, so I would appreciate it if you would take your cell phones out right now and put them in the silence mode. And as the chorus takes the stage, and Rebecca Eland, our accompanist, sits at the piano, as our narrator, Jay Byer, readies himself, and our music director and conductor, Simeon Morrow, takes his podium. I will take my place with the chorus, and we will begin Mother Mendon Sings.
So we're being filmed. That means everybody's watching what you're doing. And they're recording what everybody says, including me. Everybody ready? Good evening, everybody. As we begin our journey of Mendon from its beginning in the 1600s, I'd like to point out that the piano selections you will hear being played during this narration were typical of the kinds of music that was popular at that time. Mendon's origins began in 1659 when the General Court gave permission to Moses Payne, Peter Brackett, and I understand Dick Ferrucci, residents of Braintree, to negotiate for the purchase of a new town. The land was called Squinchapog, and it was inhabited and owned by the Nipmuc Indian tribe. The purchase became official in 1662 by the transaction known as the Mendon Indian Deed. The Indians were represented by Reverend John Eliot, the apostle to the Indians. The land was 8 miles by 8 miles. Its new name was Nipmuc Plantation. Within a year, in 1663, brave new families began the journey from Braintree and Weymouth to their new land to carve a new community out of the forest land of the Nipmucs. Their new homes would be isolated from civilization, and the nearest town was Medfield, separated by 15 miles of wilderness. The new settlers of Nipmuc Plantation would need special qualities in order to endure the hardships for survival. They had to clear acres of wood to build their homes and farms. They had to make clearings for roads. They lived a life of agriculture from dawn to dusk. They grew their own food and hunted. They had to make their own clothing and chop firewood for heat. The howl of the wolves in the night made them aware that dangers lurked in the forest. The members of our founding families lived a life of courage and hard work. The General Court granted incorporation to the plantation as a new town on May 15, 1667. It was given the name Mendon, likely after Mendham, a town in England. Colonel William Crown, Daniel Lovett, Benjamin Albee, John Thompson, Ferdinando Thayer, that's a tough one, were elected with the first Board of Selectmen. William Crown was appointed as town clerk. A year later, in 1668, the first meeting house was built. It was 22 feet by 22 feet, kind of similar to this. It would serve as a place of worship for their Puritan theology and a base for democracy for their town meetings. The small agrarian pioneer town benefited in 1672 when King Charles II of England ordered that a road be constructed for mail delivery that would link Mendon with New York, Hartford, and Boston. It would be known as the Middle Post Road. The new road created hope and optimism for trade with other colonies and make Mendon a stagecoach stopover. John Thompson built an inn in 1674. New hopes for prosperity came to a sudden end on July 14, 1675, when an attack by the Nipmuc Indians left 5 Mendon residents dead. Their tragic attack took place on Providence Road near the corner of Hartford Avenue East, not far from Muddy Brook. They were the first casualties of the King Philip War in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. In previous weeks, there had been casualties in Plymouth Colony. The new isolated town, only 8 years old, was left in terror. By fall, the town was abandoned when residents wisely sought safety in Braintree and Weymouth. The following February, Nipmuc warriors returned and burned down the meeting house and every house and barn in town. The town was left in charred ruins. By August, King Philip was killed. Without Indian leadership, the war soon ended. The once proud and noble Nipmucs, Wampanoags, and Narragansetts were depleted. The tribes were never the same. By 1680, most of Mendon families had moved back to their home to rebuild their farms. Reverend Grindal Rawson provided spiritual strength as the residents recovered. A new meeting house was built. In 1690, the town had grown and the meeting house was no longer large enough. The town's third meeting house was built on land we know as Founders Park. By the end of the century, the recovery from the King Philip War was significant. The brave and hard-working citizens of Mendon had risen from the ashes.
So here's Simeon and the Mother Mendon's Children's Chorus singing for the first time in public Rebecca Eland's Peace Our Mendon.